Hey guys, Jordan here. In this video, I'm going to give my thoughts on what focal length I think is best for real estate photography. All right, so real estate photography and the focal length you use is really going to depend on the composition you're trying to get, the size of the home that you're shooting, the size of the room. Because it's not going to be one set focal length like portraits, right? If you want to do a 35, 50, or an 85, you know, there are different pros and cons to each of those focal lengths for portraits, but with real estate, it's all about the composition and what you can show a potential buyer at a particular property. So the lens that we use is a zoom lens from 16 millimeters that goes all the way up to 35 millimeters. Now, what focal length do we shoot with most of the time is 16 millimeters, probably for most of your standard homes. You know, that's going to give you a really nice wide shot, and I'm talking 16 millimeters on a full frame lens. Now, that's about a 10 or 11% equivalent if you're shooting with a smaller sensor size camera like an APS-C size sensor. You know, if you had the biggest houses and you had plenty of space to move back and zoom in, the ideal focal length, if you can get it, is probably around 24 millimeters, right? Because at that millimeter or at that focal length, you're not getting a whole bunch of distortion with light fixtures and all kinds of stuff. It just looks a lot more natural of a picture. So if you have space to scoot back and zoom in without destroying, the composition, because in some big houses you can scoot way back, zoom in, and you still have the entire kitchen. And I think it's better to scoot back, especially on like front of home shots, right? It's better to scoot back to be in the street or, pretty almost on the other side of the street, depending on the size of the street, and zoom in on the property versus standing on the sidewalk in front of it, being at 16 millimeters, and then the roof's all stretched out. And I have friends that, do super high-end landscape, and in my discussions with him, that he agrees, and he says that 24 millimeters is his go-to. He used like tilt shift lenses and all this kind of stuff, and that's all like high-end properties, right? But that focal length isn't really practical for most real estate shoots. So as wide as 16 millimeters. You could even go a little bit wider on some. In some cases, if your lens goes wider, like I have the 12 to 24, but I typically don't go much wider than 14, and I only use that, if I'm in a really tight bathroom or, an area that's hard to get, just because I think the distortion in the room starts to look bigger than it actually is when you go beyond that. So anyways, those are my thoughts on what the best focal length is for real estate photography. Somewhere around 16 for standard run-of-the-mill, need to get full room, wide angle, and then 24 for those nicer high-ends if you have the space. And yeah, I think, anyways, those are my thoughts. If you disagree or have different thoughts, leave them in the comment section below. Curious to see what you think is your ideal focal length for your shoots, or where you're seeing yourself shoot most of the time. So anyways, if you're interested in learning more about the real estate photography business, you can check out my free workshop. The link is in the description below. If you got value out of this video, hit the like button and consider subscribing to our channel, as we consistently put out real estate photography related content just like this. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys on the next one.